Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 5th, 2024 Northampton City Council meeting. I'm Alex Jarrett, and as City Council President, I'll be presiding this evening, along with Vice President Rachel Maori, who is participating remotely. This meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. The meeting can also be watched on Comcast Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel. Now call the City Council to order. Could you take the roll, please?
Sure. Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Perry, I understand, will be arriving shortly. And Councillor Rothenberg.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. It's very nice to be back in person. I think it's been about 2.5 months. First, tonight's highlights, a presentation from our Health Commissioner and Public Health Nurse on the current status of COVID in our community, an ordinance related to parking on grassy areas. Next is public hearings. We have an announcement of 4 public hearings. They will all be on Thursday, September 19th, and they are all poll petitions. So the first one is 24.109, a National Grid poll petition for Hatfield Street. Per Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing Thursday, September 19th at 6:30 p.m. Council Chambers, 212 Main Street, Northampton, Mass. on National Grid's petition to install one singly owned pole on Hatfield Street, 750 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Cook Avenue. And instructions for accessing the hearing remotely may be found on the September 19th, 2024 City Council agenda, which will be posted on northamptonma.gov no later than 48 hours prior to the meeting, and the City Council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. The second, 24.129, a National Grid Verizon poll petition for Garfield Avenue. That will be held at 6:35 p.m. All the other times and places are the same as the previous. This is a petition, National Grid and Verizon's petition to relocate one jointly owned pole on Garfield Avenue. Public hearing on 24.130, National Grid Verizon poll petition for Turkey Hill Road. That'll be at 6:40 p.m. And it's National Grid and Verizon's petition to install one jointly owned pole on Turkey Hill Road, 1,556 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Sylvester Road. The last one is the announcement of a public hearing for 24.131, National Grid poll petition for Conn Street. It will be at 6:45 p.m. And it is National Grid's petition to install one singly owned pole on Conn Street, 155 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Conn Street and Pleasant Street for EV service to 5 Fulton Avenue. So we will take up those before public comment at our next meeting. Next is public comment. So if you wish to make a public comment, you can sign up on the sheet at the podium. If you're on Zoom, you use the raise hand feature, and the raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar. If you are calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. If you are having trouble raising your virtual hand, you can turn on your video and physically raise your hand. If you want to submit a written public comment, please email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov, and it will be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. So I'll alternate between people in the room and people on Zoom. Before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. Before I continue, actually, is there anyone in the room or remotely who wishes to speak for public comment? If you could raise your hand. Okay, great. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I will ask you to please finish your sentence. According to council rules, we don't respond during public comment. It is your time to speak. Our rules also state that counselors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda, and all comments are to be directed to the council. Okay, I'm going to ask the first person to unmute, and if you could state your name and city or town, please.
Hi, my name is Andrea Bertini, and I am from Florence, Mass. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Listening to the curriculum meeting last night, and I was thrilled to hear that everyone is acknowledging the hundreds of kids that can't read at JFK. What is upsetting is any desire to address this issue is on an indefinite pause while we wait on the hiring of new curriculum director. The plan is a long discussion at the next curriculum meeting in October, which is another lost month. There is no timeline, no expectation, no sense of urgency. If you had kids drowning in a pool, would you just turn around and say, wait, we need to formulate a plan before we can reach out a hand? Hundreds of kids behind in reading and math have been denied a free and appropriate public education for years. How many of these kids unable to read have not been identified with learning disabilities? We talk about the science of reading and have no plan as to how to teach using the science of reading. We are overwhelming our teachers with huge classes. We are not hiring the interventionists. We aren't meeting IEPs. We don't have enough paras. We slashed the budget and you have abandoned these kids and families. You actually have brilliant people in this community who could form a reading curriculum, who could form an actual plan for these kids and implement it. But we need money and resources to be spent on our kids and not overpaying millions for churches in Victor Main Street. We need to fund our schools. We can't wait another moment. The crisis is hitting you all in the face and you can't continue to ignore it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Meg Robbins. If you could state your name and your city or town, please.
Yep. Hi. Thank you, Alex. I can't say anything more brilliantly than we just heard from our last speaker. And although I won't echo exactly what she said, I will say we're 4 days into our new school year. We already are hearing how incredibly the impact of oversized classrooms, fewer teachers, the debilitating lack of content grade level support, no paras where we desperately need them, and a critical shortage of literacy, tutorial experts for our children. Our community has let us down. We have not assessed our children in time to be able to afford them the skills that they needed and the learning that they needed to be in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and even seniors, having mastered skills that we know will have a lifetime impact on what they can do. We didn't do this. Our city council has purposely chosen not to speak up, act, opt in, or walk the talk about our commitment to our children. We really do need to listen to our professionals, our teachers, our firefighters. We need to take that chunk of our money out of our coffers and step up now. It is day 4 again of these children's education. Please don't penalize them for council hesitancy in coughing up to fund our schools. If you were there every day watching what's happening with teachers and kids, I know you would make a different decision. Thank you for giving it another thought.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is announcements from councilors and the mayor. Councilor Dubs.
Thank you. I wanted to mention that on Tuesday, September 24th, I was invited to be a guest speaker at a Ward 4 Neighborhood Circle. We'll be gathering to talk about issues happening in Ward 4 and beyond, to talk about like what's been happening in our city for the past few months and some ideas for the future. So if anybody in Ward 4 would like to attend, just reach out to me and I can let you know the address. Again, that's Tuesday, September 24th, between 5 and 6 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I want to remind everyone that Saturday, September 14th, the Taste of Northampton is back on. It's from noon to 8 p.m. downtown on Main Street, and this is with thanks to the DNA and support from the city. Over 30 local restaurants and breweries will be offering food and drinks, including local beer and wine for those with an over 21 wristband on. And other businesses will be selling other wares. It's a really wonderful celebratory occasion. There also will be live music curated by the Northampton Arts Council, and that will be on pretty much for the entirety of the afternoon. There'll also be family-friendly activities and a dedicated play area for children of all ages. So please turn out and enjoy all the delicious things that our wonderful restaurants and businesses have to offer. Again, that's Saturday, September 14th, noon to 8 p.m. in the evening. I also want to make sure that everyone knows that they are invited to the meet and greet with appointed Police Chief John Cartledge. That is Wednesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. And it's an opportunity for those who know him to come and say hi and talk to him, but also those who maybe have never had the opportunity to speak with him to get to meet him and talk a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that you all will turn out and come in and talk to him about this really important position for the city that he's been appointed to. So thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, good evening. I wanted to announce that the Finance Committee will be convening on Wednesday, September 18th, 6:30 p.m. hybrid. So you can participate in person at the council chambers or remotely. And we have a special guest, school committee member, Terry LaBounty, will be joining us to talk about the motion that she passed in school committee regarding collaboration between city council and the school committee around the school budget moving forward. So we're really looking forward to that, and we're very thankful that member LaBounty is going to be joining us. Again, 6:30 Wednesday, September 18th.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Moulton.
The Committee on City Services will have a second meeting in September on Monday, September 23rd at 5 p.m., and we'll be taking up the appointment of the police chief.
Thanks. I am holding some office hours over the next couple of weeks. I had a very successful office hours back in May and June, and so they are Tuesday, September 10th from 9 to 11 a.m. at the City Council office in City Hall. Thursday, September 12th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. also at the City Council office. And Tuesday, September 17th from 6:15 to 7:45 p.m. at the Lilly Library Community Room. And that's with our Ward 5 School Committee member, Ann Hennessy. So I hope that you can join me. Any other announcements from committee chairs or others? Okay. That brings us to presentations. COVID presentation, an update from Department of Health and Human Services Commissioner Meredith O'Leary. And let's see. And also Jen Brown, our public health nurse. So welcome. Commissioner, is Commissioner O'Leary here as well? Yes, welcome, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Hello, Council. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm here with our lead public health nurse, Jen Brown. We've been asked to give you a little bit of information about the summer COVID surge that we saw and talk a little bit about the guidelines that the CDC recommendations are now, because they've been a moving target throughout the year or two as they've changed, as things have evolved, and also a little bit about our upcoming vaccine clinic schedule that we're going to have. So Jen has graciously given up some of her time tonight to join me to provide you with all this information. And then if you have any other questions, happy to answer.
Great, thank you.
All right, well, hi everybody. My name is Jennifer Brown. I'm one of the public health nurses here for the Department of DHHS. And I'm going to be discussing COVID tonight and a review of this summer's increase or surge, and then talk about the coming season so we can all be proactive, take prevention steps and keep ourselves and the community healthy. With the fall and season change, people head inside, there's going to be gatherings, school and holiday celebrations, virus is mutating, and we all should be considering our approach and have a plan. So just to start with, something that I think we've all noticed is COVID is not seasonal yet. The vaccine may be becoming seasonal like the flu, but COVID is not, and we saw that this summer with an increase in cases across the U.S. as well as here in Northampton. So some of the researchers are saying that we're having these twice-a-year spikes. They spike every 6 months now, the cases, likely a result of people becoming susceptible to infection, again, after immunity or the vaccine has waned. Also this summer we saw a lot of people going inside and close proximity to each other with the hot weather. Specifically what we saw in Northampton, one of the first metrics that we have, or the first metric we have is one of the best ones, the best indicator we have right now is COVID wastewater. And it's not precise. Wastewater provides an early warning. It's about 2 weeks ahead of when we actually see cases. And what we see with wastewater is we really want to look at trends. So over time, it gives us some accurate idea of the burden of COVID in the community. Wastewater levels increased in Northampton and the U.S., but in late July, briefly for 1 week, it spiked, and it spiked up to about December levels, and then it fell back down. Right now, we're beginning to trend up, and if you look at our wastewater graph, which is on the DHHS website, you'll see that we're at levels back to where we were in January and February. So we'll keep an eye on that. We do expect them to continue to rise. I always give a little shout out to thank you for DPW, who goes down and collects these samples once a week. And again, you can see these graphs on the DHS website. It's by a company named BioBot. We used to send our wastewater to Jamaica Plain, and DPH would analyze it with BioBot there, but now I believe our wastewater is being transported out to Colorado with a different company. The second metric we look at are case counts. So if you look at the DPH website and across Massachusetts, if you start noodling in there, I know we were all really comfortable with that during the pandemic, you can still go in there. You can see that a decrease in COVID cases in Massachusetts peaked in July, and then it's coming back down. But specifically in Northampton, if you look at our laboratory PCR case counts, and we know that PCRs that's not an accurate number of cases in the community, it still provides us some information. But when I look at MAVEN, so that's the Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiological Network, I can get case counts for different infectious diseases that we follow. In August, there were 36 reported positive cases. So August, 36, July was 27, June was 14, and May was 11. This obviously doesn't count for antigen tests. Asymptomatic people, or people just who are symptomatic and chose not to test. Some better news or good news you can say is that even though cases went up, we didn't see the severe infection that we had. So nothing like we saw back in the original days of the pandemic, or even over the peak during the winter. And again, this is due to protection with vaccination, prior infections. And once you really get like a decent immunity, you may get the virus again, but you're not going to get as sick from it. Nationally, trends, I was just looking before I jumped on, the ER visits across the states for COVID nationally are beginning to rise. RSV is beginning to rise. The flu is pretty steady. A new moniker this year from the CDC is that we're going into respiratory disease season. Before it used to be flu season. Now they're putting all these 3 respiratory diseases together. So it's a new way to think of things a little bit more broadly. The other thing I want to talk about, I know in public health we talk about populations, but I do want to mention the death rates are continuing to steadily rise. They're lower than what they were, but We know it's a population number, but I mean, these are individuals who have really suffered, and the families have. So just if you go into DPH, you can see that in August, let's see, it was, excuse me, in July of this year, there were 7 confirmed deaths, confirmed or probable deaths due to COVID. And in August, there were 20 deaths statewide due to COVID. And then just another mention to just us all thinking about the long-term effects of long COVID. Shifting to messaging, again, the CDC is looking at this grouped messaging of all respiratory illnesses. So it's not like if you have the flu, you do this, the COVID, you do this. It's a real shift to thinking, and what they're saying now is you can go to CDC, or you can go to Mass DPH, or you can go to the DHH website. But the thinking is, the guidance is, when you're sick, stay home. So this is the new social norm we're trying to let people think about and really understand. When you read through the guidance, I think it can be confusing. We're all sort of understand what we did, but there's sort of different jargon. But I've heard people say, think about it in 2 phases. The first phase, if you have symptoms, stay home when you're sick. Stay home until your fever resolves for 24 hours or your symptoms improve. And then phase 2 is use caution for the next 5 days. So symptoms improve, they're not resolved. There's some other indicators in there, I mean, things that we need to think about. So when you're staying home, get tested for COVID. It looks like we'll be getting more antigen tests through DPH. We haven't received them yet, but that's the plan, we hope. Get tested for flu. There's still antivirals out there that really reduce the length and the severity of diseases. Other common sense things, wear masks, stay away from other people in your household, wash your hands, cover your mouth when you sneeze, clean high-touch surfaces. So that phase 2 of use caution for 5 days by taking additional precautions, wear a mask, and then you can test, but COVID tests are not to get out of isolation. Before it used to be so specific, 3 days, 5 days, take a test. If it's this, do that. They do not want you testing to get yourself out of isolation. You use these more symptom-based guidelines. Another thing that I want to talk about prevention-wise is what we're doing this fall for vaccination. I was lucky enough in June, I listened to the ACIP, the CDC talking about what vaccines were going to be this year. So this year it's going to be a monovalent vaccine based on the KP.2 variant. It's recommended for everyone 6 months or older. They should receive a 24-25 updated vaccine. Here at Northampton, the DHHS, we are going to be having Pfizer vaccine for 12 and older. For 11 years old, 11 and younger, we'll be having Moderna and Pfizer. And we're going with Pfizer right now because it's the improvement in the ability for us to use it. The cold chain, but actually storage, and this is sort of a big deal. I don't know who was vaccinators out there, but if you remember back in 2020 when we started vaccinating, we got like pizza trays full of teeny little Pfizer vials that had to be in ultra cold freezers. They had to be reconstituted with syringes that we had reassembled. Now it comes in a pre-filled syringe. It goes into the refrigerator. It's good for 6 months, unlike 4 weeks before. So we have Pfizer coming in. The younger Moderna and Pfizer, because younger children need to stay with the same series at a certain age. We're beginning to schedule clinics. We're making up calendars. A lot of our regional partners have dates. We actually have some dates on the calendar, but the clinics have not been made for Northampton Housing Authority, the Senior Center here in Northampton. There's a municipal clinic, and then we have some public clinics coming up. So keep checking our website. These things are going to be posted within the next few days. We are here to support people. There are other places you can get your vaccine. If you have any questions, please give us a call. We love talking to you about it. If you have questions about timing, do you want the flu in October? Do you want to wait November for the COVID vaccine? We can help you walk through the questions, and you can make the decision based on your health and what your needs are. Last year, across the Massachusetts and the nation, we saw low vaccination rates for COVID. It was, I think, 17% to 25%. So this year, we're really trying to talk to people about getting vaccination and what we can do to increase this. I think childhood immunizations really took a dip after pandemic. I think it's beginning to get a little bit better, but we're seeing pertussis vaccine, these diseases that people should be vaccinated against and protected. So we want to talk to people about getting what barriers do they have to accessing the vaccine? How can we help? What's on their mind? Some of the outreach we're doing is via social media. On our webpage, if you go to our webpage, I try to keep that webpage. We all do updated. Most of the vaccine information or the virus information gets posted on Thursday. The wastewater comes in Thursday night. I try to get everything up there Friday so people can access it. I really try to keep it up to date, put dates on it so people know that someone's looking in at it. When I look in at it, I want you to know that I'm supported by lots of people with their hands on my shoulder. I go to the CDC, I go to Mass DPH. There are webinars every other week. We speak to people about infectious disease weekly. So a lot of thought goes into that page, but we want to hear your feedback. If you have things that you think would work better, we're very open to that. We want to get the message out to people in ways that is usable for them. We also have a Facebook page that we've been putting some information up regarding the new respiratory guidelines. Some of the outreach we've been doing so far is more targeted maybe towards vulnerable populations. We've been going to the senior center. We've been talking about this layered approach to prevention. Just if you're in a group, what ventilation, can you move your chair back a little bit? These kinds of things. And then personally, I did a small listening section to a group of seniors and really wanted to hear what their barrier was to getting vaccinated. Our inspections department is doing work with ventilation, and I think they are speaking to businesses about guidance for staying home and sick and other things. Again, I just want to say we're getting into respiratory disease season. We're going to get pushing more messages out, but we want to do it in ways that we really hear what people's concern is. We don't want anyone to get message fatigue. It was a big haul through COVID, and I'd like to see people continuing to use all of these great things to keep themselves and the community healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilors, questions? Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Your microphone.
Thank you. I have a question. When you're talking about the Department of Public Works, and they're doing the count there about the wastewater, they're on the stool specimens and so forth, they go by exactly how much stool is coming in, then they do it once a week?
So my understanding, first of all, I have to tell you, I contacted the head of DPW and I asked if we could have a tour of the wastewater facility. I've done that in another community, and I think they give tours there, so you go in and you can see everything that they're doing there. I don't know what the station is here, but there's typically a station where I don't know, I just don't know, I apologize, how many effluents are coming into a central line of all of the wastewater. I don't know if Meredith knows, but we'll take a sample from all, I think, combined City of Northampton It's wastewater. They put it in a little specimen cup that has been pre-marked by BioBot, and it gets sent off for analysis. So it's looking at the virus content. If you look at the wastewater site, it says how many, I'm going to get this wrong, excuse me, how many, I don't remember the concentration, what it is. It's not translatable to if it's at this level, then this means 20 people are sick, or this level, this many people are sick. It can fluctuate with someone very sick and virus particles. Did I answer your question?
Somewhat, but that's okay. That's okay, because I've already talked to doctors about that. Anyways, I have another question. On the news, and you've seen it yourself, where Bay State Medical, you have to wear masks to go in there. Is the Cooley Dick, I have relatives that work at the Cooley Dick, and there's COVID in there also, right? You must know that. Correct?
I am not aware of the requirements at Bay State. I know Cooley Dickinson. I've heard people say that. I know some
Right.
of the branches, they do not wear them.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying is they're protecting their community.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, are you going to be, do you know for a fact if you'll be going back down to the Elks to do the clinics down there? Because I can tell you right now, so many people were happy about that. There was, you know, parking for them and...
Yes. Yeah, the Elks is a wonderful facility. We have it scheduled for November 14th. It is going to be, the clinic is 3 to 11. I believe I've made the appointments in our scheduling platform Color, and we're going to get the word out. We love that facility. That's going to be for children and adults.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's a good one. Thank you.
also, too, what about city employees and retiring employees? Because you did it in here last time.
Yes, we love that.
Yep.
It's so much fun for us. That's one of our first ones. It's sort of kicking off the season, October 1st. And the announcements, I see drafts going back and forth. It was sent out to be sent out. They gave it to City Hall, so it'll be sent out in some letters. I don't know what. So we're on schedule for that, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to fill in those blanks, we do a mailing to all of the City of Northampton retirees with their pay stub to let them know about the upcoming municipal clinic, and then we'll do an email to all of our current municipal employees to let them know. And we are kicking off, I do believe, the vaccine season with our first responders like we usually do, Jen, probably mid to end September.
Yes, we do that. Those, all these clinics we really enjoy. Our first responders, we take that very seriously.
Yep.
They're at 6:30 in the morning to catch a shift here and there, and it's great to connect with the staff.
I want to thank you all for your great work. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, Councilor Clemmer.
Thank you for all that information. I just want to know about the variant that's out there. Is it still the flirt variant, or is there a new one now? And are there any new symptoms that we should be aware of?
There's another one coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I don't know where we are. I felt like for years I followed each variant and I knew where we were. There's the KP2, there's the KP3, there's the LB.1. I just don't know what variant that is. I'm not hearing anything from the Department of Public Health or CDC about different symptoms. I think it's just, again, sort of lumping it into, these subtle symptoms of a cold. Don't brush it off. It might be, allergy. But I'm not aware at this point of anything.
Okay. And so when you test the wastewater, you're just testing for the virus, you don't identify any of the different variants when you do that?
I believe they do. That's not information that we get. So we get, and I'm going to have to bring it up because I'm stumbling, we get a specific number, but I think that analysis is being done. You know, and I can say it probably is because our BioBot information gets sent to the CDC.
Is it worrisome that the numbers are going up this time of year, or is this just the way it's going to be now?
You know, I think people are saying that they were surprised that we did have the summer surge. They said, okay, we understand it, January, July, that makes sense. You know, we expect to see everybody coming together and these things, you know, beginning to increase. You know, I can tell you I don't have that much sort of knowledge of what they're predicting. You know, I'm used to like flu, so I can tell you I looked, and in Australia right now, the flu, what they're experiencing, they're a season ahead of us. They're right where they should be, and the vaccine for flu is a good match. So it's like, good, I'm used to getting that information. For COVID, I don't know.
That's a good sign, though, that the flu's kind of what we expect. Okay, thank you for all those answers.
You know, and I'll just say, well, thank you. You're welcome. You know, one thing we still think about is these three illnesses and not wanting to overwhelm the healthcare system. That's part of the discussion.
Thank you.
Councilor Maori.
Yes, good evening. I have a question, but first I just wanted to comment that I hope you will do the say boo to the flu again. I had never done that, and I have 3 kids, and that is the most efficient operation ever. I put the 3 kids in the car, and like we just drove up the parking lot, and we were descended upon with smiles and needles, and we were like out of there. You know? And for 4 people, that's a big deal, especially 3 weakly children. So I was really impressed with that operation. So I hope that will be happening. I'm sure it will. And my question really is about, you know, when we go to speak to relatives, constituents, what do you think? What is the obstacle with the dipping vaccination rate? Is it a sense of ambiguity around its efficacy? Like, I've had COVID, I've gotten vaccines. What's it's going to do? Is that the issue, or is it another issue? I'm curious how to encourage folks, and I would like to know the obstacles.
Yeah, I mean, I think you named it. There's a lot of different things. I think people are exhausted. I think social media may have a role in misinformation. I hate to say that people mistrust government because, you know, we're here to support people. That's, you know, been our goal. So I think it's all of these things. I think some people have lost sight of really how severe illnesses can be.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you know, as a public health nurse, and maybe some of you know, you know, you can talk to someone and you hear a story about, you know, a baby that had pertussis. They coughed in clusters until they vomited. They became blue, and they made a whooping song, you know. So this happens occasionally. You know, there used to be, for me personally, there was something out of Albany, and it was called the case study, and it's something that it's a mnemonic that I remember that C is for corroboration. So like I say, I know we all want to keep ourselves happy, and then the A is something about me, and then I talk about my nursing, and I don't usually talk about myself, but this is something I say, and it's true. I've given over 4,000 vaccines in my career as a nurse, and I've seen, I think, a cellulitis. We know vaccines can have side effects. I think we all need to say that. As a nurse, I don't see them. I'm more nervous giving aspirin to somebody. So anyhow, there's different ways to talk about it. Someone would be better than me to talk about it. I think motivational interviewing is a great way to think about talking to people. Sometimes they've been lied to. Sometimes, you know, I don't know, sometimes just things happen, there's barriers, you don't get around to things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other counselors have questions? Thank you both so much for joining us and for that update.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Next is the consent agenda. So I will read the consent agenda, and if any counselors want any items to be removed for discussion, they can do that. We have the minutes of July 2nd, July 31st, and August 5th special city council meetings, and the July 11th and August 15th regular meetings. We have 24.125, in order to increase public health nursing revolving fund limit from $100,000 to $275,000. This is in second reading. 24.126, in order to establish revolving fund for charging station electricity, in second reading. 24.127, appointment of Benjamin Weil as CAPA director. A positive recommendation was received from City Services yesterday. 24.128, appointments to various committees. Positive recommendation from City Services yesterday. To the Agricultural Commission, John J. Bobola, a reappointment. To the Urban Forestry Commission, Sue Lofthouse, a reappointment. And there's a process note, the appointment of Aaron Irvin to the Zoning Board of Appeals will be considered by City Services at its next meeting to be determined. 24.134, appointments to various committees for referral to City Services. To the Central Business Architecture Committee, John Schluntz, to fill a vacancy. To the Energy and Sustainability Commission, Rachel Flynn Kasuba, to fill a vacancy. To the Human Rights Commission, Jasmine Goodspeed, to fill a vacancy. And 24.136, the appointment of John Cartledge as police chief for referral to City Services. Are there any removals? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Moulton to approve the consent agenda. No discussion. Roll call, please.
Sure. Just going to quickly make Garrick Perry a co-host. Just join.
Great. Councilor Perry has arrived.
Because he's not going to know what we're voting on. Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Excuse me. Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry, I saw you just arrived. We're voting to approve the consent agenda if you didn't hear what the motion was, but I don't know if you're comfortable voting, but.
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen the consent agenda and I will vote yes.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Okay.
That passes unanimously. Brings us to financial orders on first reading. 24.133, an order to authorize payment of a prior year bill to Archive Social. This is in first reading. Director Nardi, welcome.
Oh, President Jared, a process note. I don't know if the council chambers camera is not on.
Okay.
If you can, that would be good, and to see who's the speaker, but if not, it's okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Could you make the council chambers Zoom a co-host?
Sure.
Okay, and then could Northampton Open Media, are you now able to turn on the video? Great. Thank you for catching that, Councilor Maori. So where were we? Yes, the financial order, prior year bill. Welcome, Director Nagy.
Good evening. This is an FY24 invoice that was sent to a former employee's email, and it was not picked up before the end of the year. This is a service to store the city's social media activity for at least 3 years. That is so we are in compliance with the public records law.
Great. Are there any questions? So we can either refer this to finance or refer it to the consent agenda of our next meeting.
Move to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Moulton to refer this to the consent agenda of our next meeting. Any discussion? Roll call, please, on referral.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
And Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. And that will appear on the consent agenda of our September 19th. Now we're on to ordinances. In first reading, 24.132, an ordinance relative to parking on Barrett Place. This was brought to us from Transportation and Parking, where it received a positive recommendation. And should we bring it up on the screen? And it is, let me just take a look at it. So currently, on one side of the street on Barrett Place, there is parking prohibited at all times, and on the other side, it's no parking from 12:01 a.m. to 6 a.m. And the proposed change is to allow parking on one side of the street at all times and continue to have it prohibited on the other side. And Councilor Clemmer, this is your ward.
Yeah, we've been discussing this, and a lot of the residents are very excited to have parking on the one side of the street. So I'd like to, thank you. I'd like to request to suspend the rules for the second reading and the referral to legal matters.
Legislative matters?
Legislative matters, yeah.
So you're making a motion to move to both suspend the requirement that ordinances be referred to legislative matters, and a motion to suspend the rule that would for 2 readings, so that would allow us to vote tonight.
Yes, correct. Thank you for
Is there a
clarifying.
second on that?
Second it.
Motion made by Councilor Clemmer and seconded by Councilor Labarge to suspend those 2 rules. So the discussion now on suspension. Councilor Elkins.
Councilor Clemmer, is that motion based, have you had conversations with folks on Barrett Place? And are they anxious to move it along? Is that part of the basis of the suspension?
Well, they came to the meeting when we discussed it at Transportation and Parking, and they were, excited to have it removed. And we discussed it at this meeting too. So people are wanting to have parking on one side of the street. They have kids now that drive. When they first moved in, they didn't, so there's a lot more cars per household. So I haven't heard anybody opposing it.
Okay.
And the parking, I believe it went back to the 1980s when it was put into effect. So it's been a while since it's been looked at, so.
Okay, thank you. And I guess you're also telling us that we should avoid Barrett Place because of all the teenage drivers?
Well, it's a dead end, so I don't think you'd be going down that way anyway, but probably.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of roads we should avoid these days with teenage drivers. Like Councilor Maori's neighborhood, maybe.
More discussion on this suspension of rules. So my only concern with it is that I like to see something on the agenda that says, suspension of rules is requested. That both gives the public the knowledge, because someone looking at this would think, oh, here's this ordinance, there's going to be other opportunities for me to discuss this. So that's a concern for me, that there won't be that other opportunity. You know, in this case, right, we did have something at legislative matter, at transportation and parking, and there was outreach to folks on the street.
And the people did come in
and speak to it, yeah.
And speak, yeah.
And it's a small street. I would be more comfortable with suspending the legislative matters rule, so we wouldn't have to hold a meeting just for this, but yet we'd still have the opportunity to discuss it on September 19th. And at that point, everyone in the public would know that would be the opportunity to come if there were any concerns or any so that's what I would be more comfortable with. So, is there?
Could I offer an amendment to the motion? So rather than suspending the rules as to both the referral and to second reading, I'd suggest suspending the rules for the legislative matters referral, so that it does kick over to the 19th, but we don't take it to legislative matters for what would surely be a very short.
Yes.
And my guess, poorly attended meeting, but maybe I'd be wrong. But so if that amendment.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, that makes sense to give people one more opportunity.
Is there
speak against it? So.
Is there consensus from the council to do that?
I'm fine with that.
One of the things I recently learned about who owns a motion once it's on the floor, it actually belongs to the whole council. So it's not just the people who made the motion and seconded it. We actually need consent of the whole council, unless we want to go through a voting process, to modify the motion in that way. But if we do have consent, then we can just simply modify it. So is that amenable, or is everyone amenable to just suspending the rule for the requirement to refer to legislative matters?
Yes.
Okay. So that is now on the floor. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay, then roll call please on suspending the requirement to refer this to legislative matters.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Councillor Perry.
Yes.
Councillor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Councillor Dubs.
Yes.
And Councillor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, so this will appear for second reading on September 19th. Thank you. Zoning ordinances not yet referred. 24.135, a package of housekeeping changes to the zoning ordinance. So our rules state that no ordinance shall be voted on until it has been considered by legislative matter, and Mass General Law requires this to be referred to the planning board. I see Director Mish, you are here. Are you here to introduce this to us? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors. When we have such a big zoning ordinance and we make changes over time, sometimes we don't catch the little bits of hanging chads and duplications, and as well as elimination of text throughout the entire ordinance. So sometimes we do amendments where there are snippets of ordinance dispersed throughout, and we don't always catch those. So this package essentially is part one of, we've got a couple of these moving forward, of just a cleanup and to clarify language in some places, correct errors, and address duplications that were intended to be removed when previous ordinances came through. So I'd be happy to walk through these, and I intend to do that certainly at the public hearing at Legislative Matters and Planning Board. So whatever level of detail that you would like now, I'd be happy to, proceed with or not.
I think going into more depth at the public hearing or hearings works for me. But if counselors have specific questions or would like more information, please speak up. Councilor Rothenberg.
I am interested in the efficiency of not going into that tonight.
Okay. Great.
So are there any questions about this? Okay, then we would be looking for a motion to refer to Legislative Matters and to the Planning Board.
So moved.
Second it.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Discussion? Okay, roll call please on referral.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
And Councilor Jarrett.
Yes. And Councilor Elkins, do we know yet when that might be?
Laura and I had some discussions about it today. Is this the one that we were thinking
Yes.
on the 5th Monday?
On September 30th.
On September 30th, if we're all available.
Heard every, yes, I know 3 out of 4 at least are available for the quorum.
So we're looking at doing 2 public hearings, one with the Planning Board and one with Legislative Matters, or would it be joint?
I think we were thinking I'm looking at Carolyn just for those. I think for this, I don't know that it's particularly essential that we do a joint meeting and clog up their time with this.
And we have a September 26th Planning Board meeting, so by the time the 30th comes around, I can put this on the agenda for the 26th, so that by the time it comes to Legislative Matters, they will have already reviewed it, so that works out well, too.
Great. Yeah, because that's also a requirement that Legislative Matters be the last one.
So it either has to be joint or after. Okay, yep.
Okay, great. Thanks.
If I can, if anybody, I think we circulated an email about planning this today, and that was suggested, but if anybody has any problems on the, from Legislative Matters for that 30th date, please let me and Laura know.
Okay, thanks. Our last item on the agenda is 24.106, an ordinance amending section 312-76 prohibiting parking on grassy areas. This is in second reading, and it was delayed. It was postponed from our August 15th meeting. And since that time, I know Keith Benoit and Alan Seawald and Laura and I, and I'm not sure who else has gone over it, and there is now a proposal that Laura's going to bring up. And it is... so, no person shall drive or park a vehicle of any description. I'm just going to read it as it's proposed, without, and some things have been removed, but so no person shall drive or park a vehicle of any description upon the turf or grass-covered area adjoining the paved or hardened portions of any street, any public parking lot, or any public driveway. Notwithstanding the provisions of the previous sentence, devices used by those with mobility impairments, such as wheelchairs and scooters, and bicycles and electric bicycles, as defined in Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 1, may be parked within such turf or grass-covered area and may drive over such turf or grass-covered area to the extent necessary to access parking thereon. You can tell a lawyer looked at that.
I was going to say that now we have a thereon in the ordinance, so it is good. It's golden.
Thank you, Solicitor Seawald. We could take questions, comments about this amended version. And Councilor Clemmer.
Yeah, I like this version of it. I think it's a lot clearer about non-motorized vehicles, and it takes out the weight limit, which was a big discussion last time. So I like the wording of this one.
Councilor Lobo.
Yes, I have to agree with Councilor Debbie Clemmer. I think it's pretty well organized. I think it's making more sense than it did last time, because you could be on a scooter, you could be on a wheelchair, you could be over a bigger person and weight, and I would find that very discriminatory. Somebody's heavier, it wouldn't be able to go on the grass with a wheelchair. Didn't make sense.
Thank you. Councilor Elkins.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Labarge to approve as amended.
As amended.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
I wanted to say,
Yeah.
you guys did a good job on that. Yeah.
Yes.
We couldn't have done that in the meeting, we were too.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, agreed. It was a good choice to delay it. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
No.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
And Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
So that passes with 8 yes votes and 1 no vote. That brings us to the end of the meeting, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Whoa. Councilor Elkins, made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Labarge to adjourn. Roll call, please, on adjournment.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
And Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. And Laura, you lost.